Inflammation isn't always bad. In fact, some inflammation is protective and necessary. But when it stays switched on, it can show up as joint pain, migraines, fatigue, and over time, much bigger problems. As a wellness and nutrition coach and somebody that personally dealt with chronic inflammation for years, this is one of the main things I help my clients try to improve through smarter nutrition choices. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through 10 of the most anti-inflammatory foods, and I'll show you some of the data backing up how and why they work and what they're best used for. Before we get to food number one, a quick distinction. Acute inflammation is protective. You get injured, exposed to a pathogen, or stress the body out for a period of time, and it responds by generating short duration inflammation for repair. Chronic inflammation is completely different. This is when the inflammatory signal stays elevated for much longer than it should. Over time, that low-grade inflammatory burden starts to destroy your systems. So your goal is not to eliminate inflammation entirely. It's to support the kind that's short-lived and helps you heal, and reduce the kind that stays around and keeps your body under constant pressure. And food is one of the fastest levers to shift that pattern. Let's start with food number one. Fatty fish. We're talking about salmon, sardines, herring, and mackerel. If I had to build an anti-inflammatory foods list from scratch, fatty fish would be near the top. Why? Because these fish provide anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids like EPA and DHA. These are some of the most well-researched anti-inflammatory nutrients available. There are many studies that have showed that supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids can reduce risk of cardiovascular disease, and one umbrella meta-analysis found that omega-3 supplementation can improve major inflammatory markers like CRP, TNF-alpha, or interleukin-6. I've talked about these markers in other videos, and they're probably the top 3 that I flag for clients that are dealing with chronic inflammation. And the research is clear that EPA and DHA are some of the most powerful nutrients for managing. So from an anti-inflammatory standpoint, I would rank fatty fish S tier. These are best for joint support, cardiovascular health, and brain health. And my personal favorite way to eat them is just by opening up a can of sardines and anchovies and throwing it on a salad, because it's cheap and convenient. Number 2 on the list is extra virgin olive oil. Now, most people are aware that extra virgin olive oil is healthy, but not as many people are sure why. Not only does it provide monounsaturated fatty acids, but the high quality stuff is loaded with polyphenols. And those compounds are the reason that extra virgin olive oil is the backbone to some of the anti-inflammatory Mediterranean style eating patterns. And research has found that people who supplement their diets with extra virgin olive oil can have a profound effect on reducing their HS-CRP, or high sensitivity C-reactive protein. This is probably the single most straightforward biomarker for tracking the state of inflammation in your body. And that's exactly why extra virgin olive oil deserves to be on this list. But I would rank this as A tier. This is a daily anti-inflammatory staple. But the reason it's not an S tier is because when you heat extra virgin olive oil, some of these healthy fats and the anti-inflammatory polyphenols, they break down under the heat. In addition, it can be hard to source high quality olive oil. A ton of it is actually cut and diluted with some of the more pro-inflammatory seed and vegetable oils. The best application of this is just adding uncooked extra virgin olive oil on top of some of your meals as an anti-inflammatory bonus. You could drizzle it on meats, vegetables, salads, eggs, up to you. Before we get to number 3, if you like science-backed nutrition and longevity content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel because I pump this content out every single week. Now, number 3 is ginger, and it absolutely belongs on this list. Ginger contains compounds like shogalls and gingerols that have documented anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. A systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized control trials found that people that supplemented with ginger reduced those 3 markers we've talked about: C-reactive protein, TNF-alpha, and interleukin-6. That's exactly why I would rank ginger as S tier. The evidence is solid and it punches above its weight for something that is so simple. Now, for me personally, ginger is probably the single biggest lever that I pull when I'm dealing with joint pain. I just mix up a little bit of ground ginger and water and I chug it down. I literally had a client text me earlier this week saying, man, the ginger has been a game changer for my migraines. You can add it to smoothies, you can add it to water. I have some clients that make tea with it. It's super easy to mix in stir fries. It's up to you. Number 4 is ginger's cousin, turmeric. Turmeric is another root vegetable just like ginger, and it earns its place here because of a compound called curcumin. Curcumin has been widely studied for its anti-inflammatory effects, and it's been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. Multiple systematic reviews and meta-analyses have confirmed the anti-inflammatory impact that curcumin has on some of these key biomarkers. Now, as a compound alone, I would probably rank curcumin as S tier, but turmeric I'm ranking as A tier because the quality and the dosage and the absorption, they all matter. Turmeric is not magic because you sprinkle a little bit on food or put it in water and drink it down like ginger. It works better as a broader anti-inflammatory input because it ultimately should be paired with black pepper and fats to increase absorption. There's also the issue of sourcing. Some turmeric sources have been found to have high heavy metal content, so you want to make sure wherever you're getting it, it's third-party tested. Now, I personally like turmeric best on eggs, on sweet potatoes, or on soups, but there's also a huge group of people out there that swear by it as a component of golden milk, where you just mix turmeric in milk before bed to improve your sleep. Number 5 on the list is berries, and we're talking blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries. Now, berries, just like olive oil, are rich in polyphenols, especially anthocyanins. And a systematic review and meta-analysis looking at 44 different randomized control trials found that anthocyanins and anthocyanin-rich berries improved several cardiometabolic risk factors. In other words, as long as you don't overdo them, berries can be a really protective input when it comes to nutrition that protects your cardiovascular and your brain health. I would put berries at A tier. The biggest downside is that they're fairly expensive. And that's the exact reason my favorite way of getting them is in big bags of frozen organic berries. You can use them to make smoothies, you can mix them in yogurt, we even put them in the bottom of the chia pudding we make our daughter. Number 6 on the list are leafy greens. And we're talking about spinach, arugula, kale, Swiss chard, bok choy. Leafy greens deserve a spot here because they deliver carotenoids, folate, vitamin C, vitamin K, magnesium, and a whole variety of other anti-inflammatory compounds that can contribute to a healthy anti-inflammatory eating pattern. Research has shown that regular consumption of leafy greens can help nurture a healthy gut microbiome. There's even research showing it can help lower HSCRP, so it's an easy addition here. That being said, I would rank leafy greens as B tier, and there's a couple reasons why. First, a lot of them are heavily treated with pesticides and herbicides, so quality absolutely matters. Second, eating some of these leafy greens raw in many people can actually contribute to bloating and increased inflammation because of certain anti-nutrients like oxalates. So as long as you're getting them organic, or you're washing them thoroughly, or you're cooking them with a method like steaming, these are a very high ROI input that you can add. I find that they're one of the best ways to improve the nutrient density of your diet and also give yourself some volume. My favorite way to eat them is to mix them in with some scrambled eggs, or to eat some soups or bowls, or even a salad now that I've actually healed my gut. Number 7 on the list are cruciferous vegetables. This is broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and these are powerful anti-inflammatory inputs for a few reasons. These cruciferous vegetables are loaded in fiber and also sulfur-containing compounds. Randomized controlled trials tracking people that add cruciferous vegetables consistently find that they have the power to lower these inflammatory markers like interleukin-6. They're loaded with sulfur compounds, fiber, other micronutrients, but if you don't cook them, they will definitely cause bloating. I would rank cruciferous vegetables as A tier, and it's because of the sulfur and the fiber content. And my favorite way to eat them is by steaming them. Steamed broccoli or Brussels sprouts or cauliflower smothered in some garlic and olive oil. Awesome addition. And that brings me to number 8, garlic and onions. Now, I pair them together because they're practical and they often work as a team. A meta-analysis found that garlic supplementation can reduce CRP, and aged garlic supplementation can reduce CRP and TNF alpha, likely through a compound called allicin, which also helps lower blood pressure. Onions, on the other hand, especially red onion, contain flavonols like quercetin, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory compound that has been shown in the literature to be able to reduce multiple inflammatory biomarkers. Now, I would rank garlic and onions as B tier. They're excellent supporting players in an anti-inflammatory diet, but I wouldn't call them quite as powerful as things like extra virgin olive oil or fatty fish or ginger. These are quiet anti-inflammatory foods, and the best way to use them is to add some additional flavor and anti-inflammatory benefits to many of your meals. You can add them to bowls, to stir fry. Frankly, I put garlic on everything, and my wife hates it. Now, number 9 on the list nuts and seeds. And we're talking specifically about walnuts, pistachios, flax seeds, chia seeds, and pumpkin seeds. Each of these provides healthy fats, minerals, fibers, and can be a really great component to an anti-inflammatory nutrition plan. A systematic review and meta-analysis found that nuts can play a really powerful role in endothelial function. Now, these are the cells that line your blood vessels. So by reducing the inflammation on the blood vessels themselves, you make it easier for your heart to do its job. Now, I would rank nuts and seeds as B tier because there's a fairly big disparity depending on which nut or seed we're talking about. They have fiber, minerals, and healthy fats, but they're also pretty calorie dense, so they're easy to overeat. And some people don't digest them that well, so they can actually lead to more bloating or digestive discomfort. The best use of these, by far, is as a replacement for any ultra-processed snacking you do. And to prevent overeating them, I always recommend to clients use the 2-finger rule, just like you're pouring a glass of whiskey. Only pour 2 fingers worth of these nuts and limit yourself there. My favorite way to eat them is to add walnuts and pistachios to some Greek yogurt with some blueberries and maybe a little bit of raw honey. Now, number 10 on the list is a food group that you should be eating every single day, ideally at every single meal, and it's fermented foods. I swear I'm gonna end up beating this drum until the day I die. But your gut microbiome might be the single most important variable for your overall health. For fermented foods, we're talking about different types of fermented vegetables or fruits. We're talking about fermented dairy like kefir or unsweetened yogurt that has live cultures in it. These fermented foods have been linked with better microbiome diversity, which improves inflammatory signaling all throughout the body. Now, there have been multiple clinical trials supporting this, including a major trial out of Stanford that was published in Cell, showing that fermented foods are one of the best ways to cultivate a healthy gut microbiome and thus a lower inflammatory state and a better immune system. Fermented foods are S tier, and if I could rank them higher on this list, I would, because they hit inflammation from a different angle than anything else here. Many of the other foods here help feed the beneficial microbes in your gut microbiome, but fermented foods provide the microbes themselves. This is a very smart addition and one of the things that I'm telling every one of my clients to eat every single day. My personal favorite ways to eat them are yogurt that has live active cultures in it, raw cheese that I add on eggs and salads, and tons of sauerkraut and kimchi. Now let's talk about the biggest inflammatory component to most people's kitchen. And I want to be careful here because this is where the conversation runs the risk of getting sloppy, and it's something I warn about constantly in my book. Unless you're living under a rock, you've heard people debate whether or not seed and vegetable oils are healthy or inflammatory. And the real world problem is not that every seed oil automatically contributes to inflammation. The better supported concern here is extremely high quantities of the seed and vegetable oils. And even worse than that, most people are consuming them after the fats have been heated and damaged. They're either cooking with them under heat, they're eating them in fried food, or they're eating them in ultra-processed snacks, all of which have a heating component that destroys these fragile fats. That pattern is much more defensible as a real problem versus a salad dressing that has a little bit of high oleic sunflower oil. So the message I'm trying to get across to you is if you're currently cooking with one of these seed or vegetable oils in your home, it's one of the easiest swaps to make. And I actually wouldn't go out and cook with extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil because those are fairly fragile too. I would prioritize cooking with coconut oil or beef tallow. If you're gonna use olive oil, just make sure you do it at relatively low heat so you protect those polyphenols and healthy fats. Last but not least, I wanna give you an action plan. This is a really simple anti-inflammatory food reset. Step 1, add 1 anti-inflammatory anchor to every meal. For breakfast, that might be berries or yogurt or ginger or chia seeds. For lunch, that might be olive oil, leafy greens, sardines, or fermented vegetables. For dinner, that might be broccoli, Brussels sprouts, garlic and onion, salmon, turmeric. Just start with 1 addition per meal. That works a lot better. Step 2 is to upgrade your cooking base. Start with coconut oil or beef tallow, or if you're gonna use olive oil, do it at very low heat, or you could use cooking methods with no oil at all, like steaming or poaching. In addition to the oils, start adding ginger, turmeric, garlic, onions to many of your meals. I promise you, having dealt with chronic inflammation for years, this one shift changed everything for me. Step 3 is to reduce the most common triggers. That healthy protein bar, the industrial dairy, or the granola that has the hydrogenated vegetable oil, get rid of it. And step 4 is probably the best tip I have for you in this whole video. Build your own anti-inflammatory cocktail. Make this your go-to when you're feeling inflammation so that you're not popping Advil and other NSAIDs that destroy your gut and make the problem worse over time. For me, I have 2 mixes here. One is ground ginger with extra virgin olive oil and apple cider vinegar in a glass of water, or before bed, I'll pop some turmeric and a CBD capsule. Either one of these works just as well as Advil, sometimes better, and it doesn't mess up your gut. If there was one perspective shift that I could give you in this video, it's to stop asking what single food can I eat to lower inflammation, and instead to start asking what food should I eat to keep my system balanced, to nurture my immune system and my gut so that I don't deal with an overactive inflammatory state. Because chronic inflammation is not a one food problem, and it's not a one food solution. It's a pattern problem. And the good news for you is patterns can change. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. I hope this was valuable. I'll see you on the next video.